Welcome in, everybody. Thanks for tuning your dial to Channel 910. I'm Johnny.
And I'm Retta. And this is Fernando the Fern, also known as Robert the Plant.
And if you haven't been able to tell from the background, what we're going to talk about today, something that we both really enjoy about the hobby, color vinyl.
Yes. Okay, so I was not aware, but with a little bit of digging, color vinyl has been around for, over 100 years now.
So like you were saying, over 100 years,
Yeah.
but it really got popular around the 60s and the 70s, which is when a lot of your colored vinyl started coming out, believe it or not. And now today, it seems like every release has some kind of color variant to it.
Yeah. So from what I have found, artists would put their demos and their promos on colored vinyl to grab the attention of the DJs whenever they would send them off, so it wouldn't get lost in the mix of all the black vinyl, and hopefully it would get played on the radio station. And then they would also send them out on color wax as thank you gifts to the radio stations and the promoters. So that's a little bit of what I've found so far, and I'm still looking into it.
I mean, it makes perfect sense that if you're a DJ and you have a stack of black records, and here's this bright red or bright blue record, it's going to grab your attention, and you're going to probably pull that one out before you will all the rest of the black records, or at least it makes it easier to find. But it's neat that it got its start that way, and now it's almost become a marketing tool. You know, if you've got a release that comes out on black vinyl, there's always the red variant, the blue variant, the splatter variant, the cross color variant. You know, there's so many different types of these records that come out now just for one release. But it did actually exist at one point where the release itself was only done on color wax. For instance, this one right here that we're looking at, this is a German pressing. It's a compilation of some rock underground music, but it was only released on this splatter variant. There was no black variant. Whereas you have like this one up here, that is a Björk record. This is Post. This was the original UK pressing.
Yes.
From 1995 that was on pink vinyl. There was also a black vinyl version though, so you kind of have a choice. Do you want the black? Do you want the color? And that invokes the age-old question of what is better, the black record or the color record? Does it make a difference?
And then you get into the collector's perspective, you know, where those who collect the color variants versus the black vinyl. So
now, I myself, with my collection, now I have black variants of like Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, for instance. I have the black pressing, the UK, the US, but then I also have the color variants from the Netherlands or from France or from Canada.
You kind of want one of all of them.
It's one of those where, as a collector, they're like Pokemon. You got to catch them all, right? So that's kind of where you go down this road of the color variants, and do you try to catch all these different colors and put them in your collection, or are you just happy with one or two? And it's fine whichever way you do it.
And I think that's where I came into this, because I wasn't, I'll be honest with you, I really wasn't a vinyl collector.
Hard to believe, I know.
I know. I just wasn't. Now, I did support your hobby, and you've been collecting for quite a few years now, and I support it, as any good spouse will do, but I think my personal love of vinyl, and I've always been a lover of music.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Of all genres, but I think my love of vinyl and my true appreciation of it was when we were in a record shop. And I was there with you.
Tends to be a place where you find records, believe it or not.
And I was there with you. We were in a shop in Germany, here in Europe, and we were digging through some of the bins, and I was looking through some of the Rolling Stones. I'm a huge Stones fan. And I was digging through, and I ran across a Stones record. and it was just happened to be some girls, and it was on orange vinyl. And I was like, well, that's odd. Never seen this one. Must be unofficial. And then I look at the tag on it, and it said Netherlands pressing 78. And I was like, well, no. And so, of course, I immediately, and they wanted a pretty penny for it. And so I went up to the shop owner, and I'm talking to him, and he assures me, this is an original pressing from 1978, and it's official. It's not an unofficial pressing, it's official. And so I go to John, and I'm like, look, you've got to look this up. There's no way. And so he looked it up, and he's like, yeah. And so I'm like, well, I've got to have it. And so then my love for color vinyl in its, original form began. And from then on...
It has to start somewhere.
Yeah, from then on, I was obsessed with color vinyl. Had to have it.
Yeah, and you talk about that one record, and it just so happens it's right here.
Yes.
So here is the record in question, the one that started the whole journey for color wax. This is Some Girls by the Rolling Stones, 1978, Netherlands, and it's official, and it's on that really awesome looking orange. But it's not the only time that this record got the color treatment as an original pressing either.
No.
I think actually, kind of right behind you there is the French pressing of Some Girls on red wax.
Yes.
So this gets you going down this rabbit hole of like, well, what variants are out there, and what can I find, and who's your favorite artist? Look it up. You'd be surprised to see how many pressings are on these like rare colored variants.
Yeah, and what countries was
Correct.
it?
Yep.
Just exclusive to a European country? Did it ever come to the United States? So it definitely took me through a journey of the Rolling Stones. I am a huge Pink Floyd fan. Took me through a journey of Pink Floyd. And then I know for John here,
as a Beatles collector, there's plenty of options. Whether it be the old original presses or there's represses, there are some unofficials, and we can talk about that stuff as we discuss this stuff, within this video. But there's rabbit holes you can go down all day long.
Yes.
Between solid, like I said earlier, solid, splatter, eco vinyl is a new thing that's come out now too, and we can point out some of those as well. Something to keep in mind too while you're watching this video. You may be seeing stuff up here on the wall, or we might pull something out and show it to you. And if you're like, wow, how do I get my hands on something like that? You may be surprised if you stick around to the end of the video. We might be able to tell you how you can get your hands on some of these that you're seeing right here in front of you today.
Yes, but not my Netherlands pressing of the Rolling Stones. Not available. But the red one is.
So talking about that, all the different variants and all the different types of color vinyl out there, we showed off the Rolling Stones earlier as a solid color, and that's, I think, the more common of what you're going to find, whether it's red like that or pink or white. You have solid blue, whether it's opaque or transparent. Those are kind of the ones you see the most often. But here lately especially, you've been seeing a lot of the weird color in color or splatter. We have a splatter here and a splatter over here. There's a color in color. Video game soundtracks, also something that's very popular, tend to catch your eye with these fancy color variants. Yeah. It's really cool, I think, when they kind of tie in the record with the color. For instance, like I have a Beatles white album on white vinyl, or the red and the blue Beatles albums on red and blue vinyl. So something like that depicts, kind of that blood-stained 007 type of theme, kind of fits it really well. The underground we talked about earlier, it kind of matches the colors of the cover on the jacket.
It's such a beautiful album.
It is. I mean, they really do these up right sometimes, and when the colors really kind of match, it makes it even better. Because records, let's face it, it's music. It's an audible medium, but it's also a visual and it's a tactile media. It's you have something that you can hold in your hand, and to have something that also has a look to it. It really adds to the experience of vinyl record collecting.
And I think for me, it's more of art. So as someone who collects art, I think that's why I became so attached to it. So yeah, it's definitely an art piece.
No, definitely, yeah.
So
I mean, the jackets, of course, from everything from Dark Side of the Moon to Sgt. Pepper to any of these iconic album covers that you can put on your wall and it serves as art. I mean, now you have a record to match it. So color wax is something that, love it or hate it, it's out there. But if you do love it, then you've definitely got a lot of options in front of you. I mean, that takes us back to a comment I said earlier about black vinyl versus color. Is there a huge difference? I mean, other than the visual aspect, of course. We're talking about sound because it is music. And there are some people that will argue that that's a hill they will die on, is black vinyl sounds better than color. And in some cases, they may be correct. Originally, black vinyl, the black color, because believe it or not, the actual natural color of a vinyl record is not black. It's clear. They add pigmentation to make the record black. And originally, records had graphite added to them to get the black color. Now, graphite, if you weren't familiar, it's the same thing that's in pencil lead. It is actually a lubricant. So having that as part of the composition of the record, it actually makes it easier for the needle to go through the grooves with less static, with less noise, crackle. That is the original blend for black vinyl. Now, I don't know if they got away from that over the years and they just started using black plastic, but I have heard black records that have their fair share of crackles, pops, snaps, right out of the cellophane. So they're not a perfect thing to begin with just because they're black vinyl. The original records, I will say, if you're talking about records from the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, black vinyl, they can be kind of scuffed up and they still sound great.
They do.
That really, stands to prove that point of black vinyl being superior.
The quality of the older records, definitely.
I think so.
Yes, most definitely.
And that to say, if you find one of these vintage records on color vinyl, they are usually more prone to having some background noise. Not as bad as like a picture disc, which actually still is kind of a color vinyl.
Yeah.
Because it does have colors, but they're pressed completely different. Where there's like a wax inner with two photos on paper put on either side, and then a thin plastic layer put on top of that. So it inherently, with all the layers and the fact that the grooves are actually cut into a piece of plastic, it does tend to be a little bit noisier on picture discs. But that's not really what we're talking about. We're talking about the color vinyl, which is pressed the same way that a black record is. There just may be color pellets thrown in, whether it's a complete color puck, which is where you get the solid color, or they use pellets to get splatter effects or color in color. It depends more on the pressing process than what you're putting into the vinyl itself. If it's pressed properly, you shouldn't have problems with noise and crackle and static, which is evident more with some of the newer presses. They're doing a better job with the color stuff, so you're not hearing nearly as much of the background junk.
So I think when you get into color wax from the 50s, 60s, 70s, it definitely becomes more of a collector's piece, wouldn't you say?
I think so, because at that point, yes, you do still want good sound quality, but you're really after it because it's probably one of 1,000.
Yeah.
Or one of 500. So you talk about that with the collectability of things. And as a collector, you want the colored version because maybe it's a little bit more rare. For instance, we have this one that's actually in our inventory that is available if you're looking to purchase. This is Slipknot Antennas to Hell. Actually comes with a little sticker I found through in there. This, pressed in Germany back in 2017, 2018. I can't remember what year this was pressed. Beautiful red vinyl.
Wow.
Now, how many of these exist in the world?
300.
300.
Yes.
In the entire world. So if you're a Slipknot collector, you may have this on black vinyl, which is also still very hard to find, only pressed in Germany. But this one, even rarer. So same record, just a different color.
Yeah.
But there were only 300 made ever.
Yeah.
So it makes the collectability of this go way up. So when you find stuff like this, Antennas to Hell by Slipknot, only 300 exist in the whole world. It makes it more desirable. It just so happens to be on colored wax.
Yeah.
Now we've talked about, the kind of a little bit of the history, where it all came from, and how it's made a little bit, the collectability, the rarity. But I mean, what does this stuff look like? We have a couple of them up here on the wall. And what formats can you find this in? Is it only in the 12-inch records? I will say it is not only available in the 12-inch. Because even now, with all of the buzz around color vinyl, they've started putting it on 7-inch records. You can find it on 10-inch records. You can find it in box sets. And like I said, they're giving you options as to, do you want the black version? Do you want the color version? This one 7-inch that I just showed off to you actually is one of, I think, 5 or 6 different variants that came out for this. You can get the black. Right. You can get the blue marble. There was a blue solid, like a transparent. There was a white. So you have options. Maybe you don't like the color wax. You want black. You can do that. But if you're like me and you're trying to collect the rare variants, maybe you go for the color. Something else that we have available for sale is this Soundgarden box set. Now, this happens to be my personal copy, but I have to show this to you guys because when it comes to splatter records, this is one of the best examples of splatter vinyl that you can find out there. 4 LPs, and they're all different colors. But I mean, just look at these.
Oh, wow.
They're amazing. It's almost, you could almost call it glow in the dark, even though it doesn't. It's super bright.
It's fluorescent.
So they're using, a yellow base for this, and then they throw orange pellets in there so that whenever it actually presses it, those orange pellets just kind of smoosh in there, and you get this really cool splatter effect. And every one of the records in this set are a different combination of colors. So it's super cool.
When they do something like that, everyone will be unique.
Indeed. Everyone is unique. So if you were to take this this record and compare it to the listing on Discogs, where they'll have a photo of it, it won't be the exact same pattern because every time they press it, it's slightly different. But again, this is one that was pressed color wax. It also had a black vinyl version too. So if you want the black version, it does exist. But if you want this really cool color variant, it's available as well. And we actually have a copy of this, and we'll tell you how to get that a little later in the video. So something else that has become increasingly more popular, especially in the last decade or so, because of the awareness of environment and being green, a lot of record companies, record pressing plants have started moving towards what's called eco vinyl, and a lot of major label artists are using this in their releases to be a little bit more environmentally friendly. Now, the cool thing about eco vinyl is that, again, every single pressing is going to look different, not just in its design, but also in the overall color. What I have here is an unofficial pressing of a Beatles record that's part of a box set that, again, is also available from our Whatnot store. And we'll talk about those details a little later. But look at this. Super cool. This one's got kind of a pink color to it. But you may actually have this exact same box set with this exact same record, and it has more of maybe a gold color or maybe a little bit more green, because it really just depends on what materials they used during this particular run to press the record. So Eco Vinyl, as environmentally friendly as it is, it's also visually striking and really cool, because you may have one of only a handful of that exact color. But it's not just the unofficials. That one happens to be. But I know like Ed Sheeran has pressed on Eco Vinyl. Paul McCartney has pressed officials on Eco Vinyl. U2, Coldplay. A lot of these newer artists are using that method because it is more environmentally friendly. I think Coldplay's latest record actually boasts on the sticker, which I think we actually have that one too. Yep, here it is. So right there on the hype sticker is that this is a limited first edition pressing on 9 recycled plastic bottles. So you had 9 recycled plastic bottles, and you get this super cool translucent pink vinyl from Coldplay. Eco Vinyl, pressed on recycled plastic bottles. So there's so many different methods and ways and designs and features to these colored records that it just makes the hobby a little bit more interesting. It adds a little pop to your collection.
Yes, absolutely. So John, you've mentioned a few times now how at the end of this video you'd let everyone know how they can find us. So why don't you share with everyone now?
Okay, I might as well, right? So you can go down in the description and you'll find links to our Instagram, where you can follow us there for some updates. Our Whatnot page, which is where you'll see us probably the most. It's where we live stream and do auctions, as well as our eBay store, which we haven't been using a lot lately, but we're going to start adding some more stuff to it here moving forward. So you can find us in those 3 places for right now. We may expand to some other platforms later, but right now, Instagram, eBay, and especially over there on Whatnot. I'm also going to throw in the description a link for the Whatnot page, that if you're new to that platform, if you've never been on Whatnot and you want to check it out, they're offering some free money. So who doesn't like that? Some free money for your first purchase, as long as you use the link that we provide you down there in the description. So check us out over on Whatnot and the other platforms as well, and you can get your hands on some of these and others.
Yes.
So I think that probably about does it for our discussion on color wax today. That being said, if you want to check us out over on Whatnot and partake in these auctions on stuff like this colored vinyl, you can catch us over there. If you're watching this video before January 4th, that's the actual date when we're going to be auctioning off the color vinyl. But if it's after that, it's okay, because we're always adding new stuff to our streams. So if you miss out on this, maybe you'll find something else that you like in the future. And of course, like, subscribe, share the video with those who also share a passion for vinyl records, because I think they'd enjoy it.
Of course. Until next time.
Keep your dials tuned to Channel 910. Thanks a lot.